We just got Sentinels of the Multiverse Disparation from the Definitive Edition playline. Let's take a look at what's in the box. We're getting 6 new characters that you can play, one of them being a duo character deck with 2 different heroes in it. We've got 36 alternate character cards, which is massive, and we can get a lot of variety in our games, including alternates for characters in different Definitive Edition boxes. We've got 9 villain decks, including 3 never-before-seen villains with all new stories that we haven't experienced yet. We've got the 9 Ennead cards that are going to go along with that particular encounter, 9 different bosses with their own unique effects that you have to deal with. We've got a new Principles deck, which allows you to add a card to a character, giving it a unique effect for the rest of the game. This can be done on character select and allow you to have a change-up of how the game plays. We've got 5 environment decks, 9 regular event cards, and 9 critical event cards for a lot of variety in gameplay and much more difficult challenges. Got 1 new hero spinner for a little bit of variety in your hero spinners, and then we've got these 9 new Ennead spinners. These are a little bit tricky, so let's take a look how to put them together. To start it all off, take one of the larger wheels and one of the thicker little pins. Slot the wheel into the pin, and then take the new spinner card on the large section and slot that in. Now you take a small wheel and put that on top, then very carefully flip up the front of the spinner so that it lines up with your pinhole. Take the smaller pin and feed that in the front, pressing down tightly until it all snaps together. This could take a little bit of work, and you might need to squeeze extra hard to get it finally snapped in together. You're going to want to be careful with these because it can be easy to rip the cardboard and ruin the whole thing, so be careful as you're putting it all together. Of course, we've got the standard set of 1 HP trackers to help you track the HP of small minions, and we've got the Nemesis tokens, which you can put onto characters that are nemesis of each other to signify that they have that damage boost. So let's talk about all these decks. The first new hero in the game is Chrono Ranger, the one-armed time-traveling bounty hunter cowboy. Chrono Ranger was one of my favorites in the older game, and he's definitely gotten a major upgrade in this with much faster play. You can see that pretty clearly on his base character card, where his new basic power deals 1 damage to a target and allows him to either play or discover a bounty card. Bounty cards are unique cards in his deck that he can assign out to targets in the game, giving him benefits for when he takes those targets out. He can amplify damage dealt to targets, get extra card draw, or heal. There's lots of benefits from the bounties, and he's now going to be cycling these out way more reliably. He's best for players that like quick gameplay that like to feel quite powerful and impactful upon the game. The character himself deals great damage, as well as has good control over the battlefield. For alternate cards, he's got Tengu Hunter, which changes his focus over to more about his one-shots and is able to get higher damage output off with less focus on bounty play. Windwalker, a gender-bent version from an alternate timeline that focuses on playing cards that you've already played before from your graveyard and getting you extra card plays. And his first appearance card from Tales of the Bizarre, where he's going to be more focused on support, healing himself, and getting more bounties out. Next up is Knyfe, the futuristic laser sword wielding former maximum security prison guard. Knyfe specializes in target control, taking out small targets and getting a lot of benefit for destroying weaker enemies. But she can definitely bring on the punch with some powerful items and ongoings to improve her damage output against major targets. She's definitely a beefier character that focuses on keeping her HP high and keeping the enemies focused on her. Really good for players that like to support their team while still feeling brawly. Her basic ability allows her to deal damage to a target and then heal if that target dies. And this is a theme you're going to see throughout her entire deck. Her alternate card, Fighting Spirit Knyfe, is focused on being more of a drunken brawler. She deals herself toxic damage to deal out irreducible damage, making her great at taking out targets that are very defensive. Rogue Agent boosts up her control abilities and focuses more on infiltration. When she takes out targets, she's able to reveal upcoming cards from decks and get rid of problematic ones. And her first appearance card from the Out of Time series allows her to command her allies to go out and deal damage, allowing 2 different allies to damage enemies. This can be great if you're working with allies that have huge powerful buffs to themselves, increasing their single damage output. Omnitron-X, the 10th iteration of the Omnitron design, come back in time to save humanity from himself, who gets a huge gameplay enhancement in Disparation. Omnitron now is going to play a lot more like the Omnitron boss, focused on fabricate and exterminate clauses throughout his cards, and switching between the 2 modes, focusing on support or damage. He's still got his components and plating cards, which work a little bit differently. Plating cards aren't going to last forever anymore, and are not going to be nearly as powerful and oppressive towards certain bosses, while component cards actually feel quite a bit better. He's going to be switching his protocols between his Fabricate and Exterminate focuses, which will change up how he plays throughout the game, and you're going to switch to the correct mode to deal with the challenge at hand. His basic power lets him discover components if he isn't already set up, or summon protocols, which makes sure he's in the right mode for the trials at hand. Omnichan is an alternate version of Omnitron from a Japanese-inspired comic. This power allows him to damage enemies and heal allies at the same time. Omnitron-U is from the storyline where Omnitron was destroyed and Unity tries to resurrect him, bringing his body back as some kind of robotic zombie thing. This card focuses on support, drastically increasing your Fabricate capabilities and churning through components. And finally, there's that first appearance Omnitron from when he first came back in time. This one is focused on Exterminate. Higher focus on damage output rather than the Fabricate version in Omnitron-U. Omnitron is going to be one of the most advanced characters where you're focused so much on changing out different components and utilizing your skills for the challenge at hand. He's definitely more for advanced players that like that more complicated interaction between your cards. The analytical human supercomputer slash archer, Parse, comes in as a major control character. Having amazing dominance over the decks in the game, she puts a lot of focus into revealing upcoming cards and manipulating decks to be able to change the outcomes of what's going to happen. She's definitely one of those more advanced characters, focused a lot on understanding the interactions of cards available throughout other hero decks, as well as the villain and environment decks, and having a lot more of the decision-making process in what's going to happen when. Parse can definitely lead to wins that wouldn't have been a win otherwise by getting rid of extremely powerful cards, burying them down at the bottom of the enemy deck. Reveal the top card of a deck, bury or replace it, and then draw a card is going to be a line you're going to see a lot when you're playing this character, and you're going to be manipulating decks quite often. But she's definitely still got great damage output, and a lot of focus on fixed damage, allowing her to take out those defensive cards. Her base power allows her to look at the top two cards of her deck, play one, and discard the other, making sure she almost always has something impactful to do every single turn. Spacefarer Parse allows her to focus on the bottom of her deck instead, revealing cards from the bottom and placing one of them on top, then allowing her to discover or collect ongoing cards, powering her up and getting her set up a lot faster. Terminarch Parse sacrifices a massive amount of her HP to get an extremely powerful ability. Reveal the top card of each deck other than her own, choose one keyword, and discard any cards that do not contain that keyword. Then play all cards that do contain it. This can give you some amazing turns, allowing multiple of your teammates to play cards, or making sure to get rid of powerful enemy abilities. And finally, we've got the first appearance of Parse, which is definitely not the route that they ended up going with this character, much more of a rugged bounty hunter kind of look going on here, rather than the analytical techie super genius that they ended up making the character feel like. This build gets very focused on taking out low HP targets and getting benefit for destroying minions or other important priority targets that aren't the primary villain. The Psionic Protector from a different reality with a dark side, Visionary, comes in as another powerful control-based character. Visionary's got a unique mechanic where she has a second deck called the Dark Visionary deck. Throughout her card plays, she can choose to get extra benefits from her cards, but if she does, she has to play the top card of the Dark Visionary deck and deal with whatever effects may come. The Dark Visionary deck tends to do some kind of negative to herself and her allies, along with a very powerful positive. She's great at helping her allies get extra card draw, controlling the decks to make sure the right cards come out at the right time, and protecting her allies or weakening her enemies. Her base power allows her to give an ally 2 card draws and then a discard. If she chooses to use this on herself, she then must play the top card of that Dark Visionary deck. You can give in to the dark side by playing Dark Visionary. Doing so gives you a lot more power over playing cards from your dark side deck, allowing you to draw those cards into your hand and then choosing which ones to play rather than just getting the top one off the deck all the time. Next up, we've got the Fissionary, a fish-themed version of the character. This one gives her personal deck control, revealing the top card of both of her decks, and then choosing which one of those to play. This can allow you to avoid some of the really negative cards in the dark side deck, while still being able to get out some of the really powerful ones when you want to get them out. And finally, the first appearance visionary from when she first travels to this dimension allows her to do a little bit of personal damage or play her dark side cards. From the characters released in Disparation, Visionary is one of the most complicated across the board. It's really difficult to find full value from her because you need such a deep understanding of all of the different decks, what's good cards to keep, what's bad cards, as well as constantly having to manipulate your dark side deck, making sure that you're not messing up your allies' plans or doing negatives more than positives. She's a tricky hero to play, but can be so very impactful once picked up. Painstake and Darkstrife, the bonded emo heroes, are a dual hero deck where you're playing two characters at the same time. They have lower health pools themselves, but a lot of the damage is going to end up splitting up between one or the other, so you have a decent amount of HP to work with. Their deck is split between soul cards, which are Painstake's abilities, and Aeternus cards, which are Darkstrife's. It's a draw and discard focused deck where you're going to be discarding cards to get benefit from the cards that you discarded. You have to reveal cards in your hand quite often to get benefits from effects. Making sure that you have the right cards in your hand to power those abilities is going to become really important. This duo becomes extremely powerful when they're paired with an ally that allows them to keep their hands full of cards like Tachyon. Despite their looks, Painstake is actually the demon, where Darkstrife is actually a human, and both of them were raised on their opposites worlds. When you're picking these characters, you pick which version of each of them you're going to play, and you can have different versions of each of the different characters. For base powers, Darkstrife allows you to deal some damage, then discard an Aeternus card to draw another card and deal even more. You're going to need a decent supply of Aeternus cards to keep this power online and fully useful, but the card draw that it gives should help along those lines. For Painstake, you can draw 2 cards and then discard any soul cards that were drawn this way to heal for each one discarded. If you don't have any of those Aeternus cards in your hand, you're able to use this ability to keep yourself healed up, or to go and fetch for those extra Aeternus cards. Prince Darkstrife is an alternate version where he embraces the powers of the demonic forces rather than rebelling against them. He's able to deal himself chunks of damage to get extra card draw or card plays. A high risk, high reward playstyle. Painstake the Betrayer also embraces that demonic focus. She can damage enemies to draw cards and heal, or she can damage allies to get extra card plays. Their Soul Seeker variants drastically increase how quickly they get set up and become effective. Darkstrife gets to draw cards. If they're soul cards, you get to play them for free, or if they were not soul cards, you get to deal damage out to your enemies. And Painstake can discard the top card of her deck. If it's a soul card, she heals her allies. Otherwise, she draws extra cards. And finally, we have their first appearance variants. Darkstrife can hurt himself to hurt an enemy and play the top card of his deck, where Painstake can heal an ally and then either draw cards or discard soul cards to get better setup, discovering ongoing cards from the top of her deck. This character set is really hard to play. With a 9 difficulty level, it's very difficult to play these guys effectively due to their low HP pools and constant need to deal with discarding cards and reacting to those effects. It's hard to keep themselves fully set up due to all of the cards requiring you to have discard available or certain cards in your hand, and it can be really tricky to feel effective when playing these two. But when played to their maximum effectiveness, they're a super powerful combo and one of the stronger characters in the game. Let's look at the other alternate cards that we got with this Disparation set. First up, America's Boldest Legacy, an African American version of Legacy character. This has great setup and defensive properties, allowing you extra card draw and then ability to either play that card or heal yourself up. It's really easy to keep yourself as the maximum HP target and all the enemy focused on you when playing the Boldest Legacy. The Argent Adept, the Ashen one, is a gender-bent version of the character focused on a more misty appearance. It has a very unique ability. You discard the top card of your deck and then deal damage to a number of targets equal to the highest numeric value on the card that was discarded. If she damages herself with this ability, she's then able to activate one of her perform abilities. This is a high advanced version of the character and going to be really tricky to be effective with, but a super cool interaction and a very unique power. The Eternal Haka is a focus on research and study rather than brute strength. His power allows him to discard cards off the top of his deck and then salvage ongoing cards from his discard pile, allowing him to go fishing in his discard pile for ongoings that he's already used or hoping to get one of those to show up in the cards that he discarded. Then also powers allies up with some card draw. Eternal Haka is a really tough one to play because it often feels like you aren't very impactful on the game, unlike the primary variant of the character. But it has actual very powerful benefit for your allies with the extra card draw, as well as your constant effects from your ongoings should make it so that your team is able to keep alive a lot longer. Extreme Tachyon comes riding in on her super fast motorcycle, which I'm not sure why she needs because she's already the fastest woman on Earth. She sacrifices a lot of HP, going down to 21 for this powerful ability to constantly play 2 cards. If you activate this but you don't successfully play 2 cards, discard your remaining hand, draw 2 cards, and then deal yourself 4 fixed damage. This is a power you're going to be using to play a lot of cards, and then if you get desperate and have no cards left in your hand, you can deal yourself a chunk of damage to at least get something available for the next turn. The sheer power of play 2 cards is going to be really crazy on this character. Absolute Zero Frostbite is a vampiric take on the character. With his vampire-infused energy, he's now going to be able to deal out cold damage or infernal damage. If he chooses to use the lower damage infernal output, he's able to heal himself and draw cards. A very big shift in focus on the character, moving away from the dealing himself damage and instead focused on output against the enemies. Inversiverse Captain Cosmic is a gender-bent version of this galactic hero, with an extremely powerful ability to discard the top card of your deck, and then each player may play 1 card that shares a keyword with the discarded card. If 1 or fewer cards were played with this effect, then you get to draw a card. This is extremely powerful ability because if you get 1-shots revealed, you can have a lot of power played throughout your entire team. And if you get one of your constructs discarded, you then are able to play a construct and draw a card. Really fast setup and a powerful version of Captain Cosmic. Next up, we got Ra, Horus of 2 Horizons. This Ra setup always makes sure that you have cards available to play and have powerful abilities at your disposal. Activate this power to discard your hand, draw 4 cards, and gain 2 life. Definitely a power you're going to want to match with another power you have on your board for most turns when you have good cards in your hand, but whenever you get low, you're able to draw up and heal. Redeemer Fanatic changes their focus from being destructive to protective, with a power that heals allies and allows players to draw cards. This ability to sustain and support her allies can make her a really powerful character on the field, allowing you to deal with a lot of intense output from villain cards. Tempest Shockwave is a more villainous take on the Tempest character. Giving him benefit for taking out low HP targets, he's able to zap them, draw cards, and heal. And finally, we get the Freedom 6 variants. This is the version of the team that has to fight Iron Legacy in the alternate reality where Legacy is not a hero, but instead a tyrannical villain. This is a different take on each of the members of the Freedom 5 and their sidekick Unity. Absolute Zero embraces his frosty nature with the ability to deal out huge chunks of cold damage, but he has to sacrifice his items to be able to get benefit from this ability. You're going to need a lot of help keeping cards on the board to make sure you stay at your maximum effectiveness when playing Freedom 6 Absolute Zero. The alternate take on Bunker is actually the villain Freight Train in a bunker suit. He powers himself up with the cards from the top of his deck, stacking them underneath himself to deal damage out to targets. Once he builds up too much energy, he does a big hit and then has to discard some of the cards so he can't build up infinitely. Freedom 6 Tachyon gets the ability to lead her team with constant full teamed card draw, and then the ability to discard cards if she wants, discarding less useful cards to make sure she has burst cards in her trash. Tempest takes Legacy's place on the team. Having one of his arms being severed off, he now replaces it with a lightning version that strikes out at his foes. Embracing the sacrifice of his arm, he's able to draw cards and then destroy his own cards to play even more. This can allow him to ramp up very quickly, but has to have cards he's willing to sacrifice. Unity gets upgraded to a full-fledged hero from Sidekick and is much more desperate in these times, able to deal herself fixed damage to be able to play or discover golems at will, rather than needing to sacrifice other cards. This Unity sets up very quickly, but is extremely vulnerable due to her constant need to harm herself. And Wraith pushes herself to the limits, hitting multiple targets for damage and then needing to either discard cards or hurt herself, pushing herself through the strain. The Freedom 6 variants are more advanced than other options that you have for playing these characters and can tend to be quite a bit harder to play effectively, but can have very powerful output when played very well. Very difficult though to play the Freedom 6 team up against Iron Legacy because of the constant sacrifices that they're making against the already very difficult version of that character. Now we're moving on to the boss cards that we have in this set. First up with Apostate, the Fallen Angel. This deck is focused on lies, which he puts out on players, reducing their effectiveness and disrupting their gameplay. Demons, which take your focus away from priority targets with their powerful abilities that you need to get off the board. And relics, major buffs to Apostate that need to be taken out as soon as possible. Once enough relics are destroyed, he flips over to his more desperate side, churning through his cards faster and healing up quite a bit of damage if you don't put all of your focus into Apostate himself. This is more of a flip and burn style boss fight, where at the start you're dealing with lies, chunking down demons, and dealing with what relics come out. Once you flip him over, you have to hard burn him down, ignoring the other threats on the field. I really like the addition of these lie cards into the playstyle. It makes it much more interesting of a fight rather than just the demons and relics. In the Dreamer fight, the heroes are trying to protect a psionically powered girl from her own nightmares that she's making real. This is a very interesting boss fight where you're not actually trying to take out the boss itself and instead are protecting them, taking any hits to yourselves that would be focused in on the Dreamer. If the Dreamer herself ever dies, the players lose, and so there's a lot of focus on protecting her while taking out these annoying nightmare cards. Once she flips over, her psionic energies begin lashing out at the players for constant damage to everyone, and you need to continue to burn even more nightmares, trying to get her to calm down. A very tough encounter, but a lot of fun to play through. The Ennead is one of my favorite bosses in Sentinels of the Multiverse, and I love the upgraded version of it in Definitive Edition. This is the Egyptian pantheon of 9 gods that you have to fight. Atum, Geb, Isis, Nephthys, Nuit, Osiris, Set, Shu, and Tefnut. These villains are set up into categories of Sun, Hand, and Ankh, and different cards throughout the decks are going to activate the abilities of the associated characters. At the start of the fight, you deal with a subset of the Ennead, and as the fight progresses, more of them get summoned out from the tomb. Target prioritization and effects you have to deal with change drastically depending on which members are out. You're going to have to change your focus as extra relics come out that summon out the Ennead. Each of these villains also has an ultimate move now in the deck that when this card comes out, they'll do an extremely powerful ability. If that god is not currently on the field when their ultimate card comes out, instead a less severe version of the effect happens. There's wildly different difficulty curve when fighting this boss depending on which versions of the bosses come out, as well as what order the special effects of the different bosses happen in. If you manage to early on get a lot of the ultimate abilities of cards that are not in play, you should be able to deal with the Ennead quite quickly without much risk. But if the Ennead are able to power themselves up really quickly with the first couple of cards summoning out all of their members, and then are able to unleash those ultimate moves upon you, you're going to get crushed below their godly feet. The most important part of this fight is taking out priority targets before the card flips over. If all 9 members of the Ennead have been summoned and none of them have been taken out, you're very unlikely to successfully beat this encounter. The humble narrator, Grimm, is a brand new boss to Sentinels added in this Disparation game. This deck revolves around assigning storybook roles out to players throughout the game. These role cards are going to have different actions on them, parts and resists. And the boss is going to activate those part abilities, forcing you to do different actions in the game. Once every player has been assigned a role and played their appropriate part, he'll flip over and try to take control of the entire story. On this side, players can now choose to resist their incoming rolls, stopping those effects from happening, but taking a negative effect from the resist ability. Managing who gets what role and how to deal with the roles playing their parts is going to be critical in this fight and makes it a very interesting and dynamic encounter that changes every time you play it, because different characters having different roles is going to really change up the gameplay. In Disparation, Iron Legacy has returned to Sentinels of the Multiverse. This is pretty much the hardest boss fight that you're going to encounter in the game, other than if you ever do Oblivion. Iron Legacy is a tyrannical, villainous version of the Legacy character, no longer holding back his strength and punishing those who try to resist against him. His deck is full of powerful one-shots and oppressive ongoing cards. and the entire point of the fight is trying to overcome this insane threat. You need fast setup characters that are able to take a pounding to be able to successfully take down this boss. And if you don't ramp up fast enough, you're going to get wiped out. You're going to have to use chip damage against him to whittle down his HP while dealing with all of his powerful effects. Once you hit him too hard, he flips over, becomes harder to take down, and begins regenerating HP. You don't really want to flip him until your entire team is ready to unload and take him down. The time-traveling space pirate Le Capitan brings her crew and her ship against you to try and mess with the temporal timeways. This deck is full of crew cards that are going to be annoying targets that you have to deal with while trying to whittle down Le Capitan. If she ever manages to get her ship into the fray, it's going to be a bad time, and you need to take that thing out quickly. She'll steal cards from your decks and place them underneath her. Once she gets enough of them, her card will flip over. On this side, you're not able to deal damage to her, and instead, each damage she takes is going to remove one of those cards that she stole. You're going to want to do small amounts of separate damage when she's flipped over to try and flip her back to the side that you can actually damage, while dealing with her crew and trying to get that pesky little monkey off the field. This fight is pretty simple, but can definitely become overwhelming. Amelia Twain is the administrative assistant of the Freedom 5. Something is wrong, and the heroes need to dig down into the clues to figure out what's happening. But distracting events pop up throughout the city that they have to go and deal with. It always seems whenever the heroes are about to discover something, Amelia finds a new priority for them to go and deal with. Once you've gained enough clues, the card flips over and reveals that your former assistant has been converted over to the villain, Misinformation. At this point, you need to take down this chaotic villain while still dealing with the distractions affecting the people of the city. This boss fight's a really fun idea, where at the start you think the villain is your ally and you're trying to protect them. If they take too much damage and die, you take major psychic damage. But eventually it's revealed that they're actually a villain and you're going to have to take them down. Necrosis is another brand new boss added in Disparation. This boss stacks up damage on players and reveals husk zombie style creatures that you have to burn down. He's going to stack up Necrosis tokens on players that's going to make you take damage every turn based off how many tokens you've gathered up. Once enough Necrosis is built up across the team, he's going to begin chunking down your team after flipping over, and summoning a bunch of distracting husks that you're going to have to take out. Burning down husks is the primary way to remove high stacks of that Necrosis debuff. This is going to be one of the harder fights, and a lot of damage is going out on a lot of targets all the time. You probably don't want to be going into this boss with characters like Painstake and Darkstrife who have low HP pools to begin with, because the chunk damage is really going to take them down. The final boss is the ruler of Aeternus. Aeternus is a demonic realm with different demon princes vying for control of the throne. This is a 7 deadly sins boss where you're trying to fight off envy, greed, gluttony, lust, pride, sloth, and wrath. These different rulers are going to bring different effects to the game when they're in charge of the throne, and the game is going to revolve around rotating out which demonic entity you're trying to deal with, while at the same time dealing with distracting minor demons. All the cards have this unique Aeternus symbol on them. If that card is the current ruler of Aeternus, they're going to get that ability that they can activate regularly. And some cards throughout the deck are going to force the activation of Aeternus cards in play. This is a very tough boss fight. There's a lot going on, a lot of different targets, and a constant change in ebb and flow of priority makes it a tricky boss counter to deal with. You're going to want to bring a lot of AoE damage and a priority target control. Characters like Knyfe are amazing in this fight. Then there are the 9 event and 9 critical event cards. Event cards are more complicated versions of fighting each of the bosses, adding unique effects to the gameplay and making it more of a challenge. After overcoming an event, you get that card as a reward for future games, and you're able to activate special abilities on it that help you clear out future cards. Critical events are unique changes to the boss where you get a different version of the boss in play. This is usually a much more difficult version of the encounter with unique effects that no longer has a flip mechanic and instead starts off extremely powerful. Looking at these critical events, a lot of them are very hard, and I'm excited to give them a shot in the future. So that's all the cards and all the stuff that came with Sentinels of the Multiverse Disparation. I'm really excited for this game. There's so much more to come with Definitive Edition, and Christopher and Adam have so much to bring to us. The community is excited for this game, and I can't wait to see more. I'm hoping they reverse their decision to shutter Greater Than Games, but we're going to have to see what the future holds.